Well, thank you so much for being here with us today. We're going to talk a little bit about your story and how God is moving in your sphere of influence. But I just want to start by saying, relating to your purpose and your calling, what does that origin story look like for you? And how could you see God's breadcrumbs as He has pointed you to where you are now, from the time you were a little girl up into where you are today?
That is a very loaded question, but it's one that I would love to address. I have been so excited, first about God, and that started from my mom. So when God said that I know the plans that I have for you, and He said that I knew you before you were in your mother's womb, that is so true. And I think sometimes we don't understand that until we get a little bit, I don't want to say older, but a little bit more seasoned and spiritually mature. But that journey started as a little child. As a little child, I love helping the underserved. Growing up in a very small town, which was a pretty poor town and also a very prejudiced town, the opportunities were limited. But I was blessed because I had an awesome mother who was a spiritual mother, and I had a father who was a hard worker, and I had an educated mother, and we also owned property. And so that was success. We had an amazing community. And so I learned at an early age what that looked like. I had those opportunities, others around me did not.
Mm.
And because of that, my mother always told me you can do anything you want as long as you put your faith in God and be determined. And so I grew up thinking that. Ride a motorcycle, play a saxophone, had two older brothers. These last few years of growing up, being married, having children, going through a couple of divorces, and just watching life, it grew me to where I am now. And so working in Northeast Oklahoma for 25 years gave me more of an insight to a lot of the injustices that are occurring. 73111, which is one of the highest zip codes in Oklahoma City, in Oklahoma, is where I've worked for the past 25 years. So I had an opportunity to see that. Broken sidewalks, debris, just unclean situations, lack of education, lack of grocery stores, lack of sidewalks, everything that I was taught that caused an individual to be successful, it wasn't there. And guess what? I didn't like that. I didn't like it as a child. And I didn't like it then, and I don't like it now. So after 25 years of being in the district, and I've owned 5 of my own homes, one way to help generational poverty is to generate wealth. And wealth is through ownership. So I had a passion for ownership, for owning a home, at least own something. And so when I saw that only 35% of individuals that own their own homes in those areas. And those just weren't things that I liked. And so I thought, you know what? I want to change this. And the beauty of this, Jensen, the beauty of all of this is just watching God work. I didn't figure it out. I decided I was going to be obedient. And okay, God, what do you want me to do now? Because I had gone through a divorce. It's like, what do you want me to do now? I remember 11:45. Spirit's like, turn the TV on. I don't watch much TV. I turned the TV on, and it was this man at 11:45 that said, if you want to change the neighborhood, move into the neighborhood. Literally. I sold my home, moved into an apartment. I've never turned back since.
Wow.
So that first house, I moved into January of 2022. I moved in. I'm sorry, 2021. So I moved in. Once I moved in, I had started going over into the neighborhood and doing ministry even before I moved in. I started taking clothes. I started taking food over there because even with my job, I had a lot of resources, that community resources. So I saw the need of the community. So I started walking the streets, start meeting people, loving on the neighbors before I even moved in. And so by the time I moved in, I knew the whole street, and it started there because I wanted to show the love of God. This was not about someone building a home. We build homes, but we build communities. And so the plan was, how do you build a community that where there's darkness, where there is disparity? How do you do that? And God showed me, you do it by being the example. You are the salt and the light. You can do that because through me, you can do anything. My mother told me that. So that's what I chose to do. There are people who want to come back to the East Side, but because of the poor education system, because of the way that the neighborhood looks, people didn't want to come. So I decided I was going to set an example. So I put a nice house, just like I had in Edmond. I set it right there on the corner. And what I started doing is ministry work. And because I chose to be that somewhat living sacrifice, then others started saying, God started sending other individuals like myself to say, I want to come back over here. So my whole plan was, God gave me an area that I decided to concentrate on. And that was on Lottie between 8th and 16th, from Lottie over to Martin Luther King. And so that was the area of dominion that God had given me. So that's what I started doing. House at a time, family at a time, organization at a time. And God has just continued to bring those partners. And so I have a whole plan where bringing individuals to the table, God is bringing individuals to the table of various resources that we can build healthy communities that have good education, that lends an opportunity to families who want to buy a home, but maybe they don't have good credit, but they have stable jobs. So how do we do to get them on a track or on a pathway to own a home? When you own something, you have an opportunity. God tells us he doesn't want us to be the borrower all the time. We're supposed to be the lender. So children who are raised in homes that are owned have 18% higher success rate for other children who don't. That's big.
And you knowing that, you created this organization, this movement. And so tell us a little bit, give us a summary of what that looks like now, and then what God maybe is moving you towards the future.
The name of our company is Ground Root Development. I have 8 properties, and now we have families, organizations who come in to work with these families to get them in a better situation to be able to own homes as well. We have individuals who are going to go after these slum landlords. So God has this big picture, and he's done this within 1 year. And so I'm just excited. I went from one house to building 8 homes.
Wow.
But it's God, and it's not about the poor side of town or the wealthy. God has blessed me to have a great job and to be able to have resources. He's bringing other individuals like me to say, this isn't right. So we can wrap around these families. And Jensen, to be very honest, I'm excited to see what God is going to do every day myself. That's the beauty of faith. If we show up, God shows out. And that's the beauty of all of this, is that we build homes, we build communities, but a healthy community, mind, body, and spirit.
That's amazing. And what is next for you that you see coming up?
What's next for me is to keep building homes, for God just to continue to bring individuals to keep. I want a bus. I want a van. I want somebody to donate a van or a bus, because my daughter and I are taking 2 different cars to church. We have 10 kids on one block. I haven't even gone to the block down next to me or street over. It is my goal that every child that wants to go to church in that community can go to church.
Amen.
Every family in that community who want to own a home will be able to put on a plan of action to be able to own a home. Everyone who wants an education and a better job, I feel that we should be able to help put those individuals who want a better lifestyle.
Thank you so much.
You're so very welcome.
This was amazing.